Don't let that child touch the soup. Diane Mercer's voice cut through Miller's table like a knife sliding under a door. Marcus Whitaker froze with one hand over his daughter's trembling fingers, while Elena Parker stood beside the booth with a steaming bowl she had quietly paid for herself. Under the table, Sophie's cracked old phone glowed red, still recording. Travis Cole stepped closer, smiling too politely. "We handle charity cases privately," he said. Sophie whispered, "Daddy, it's still listening." 3 hours earlier, Marcus had parked his tow truck behind Harper's Auto Repair with rainwater dripping from the brim of his cap and engine grease dark in the creases of his hands. The garage lights hummed over him, pale and tired, and somewhere near the open bay door a loose chain tapped against metal in the wind like a small warning no one had asked for. He should have gone straight home. He should have heated canned soup on the stove, helped Sophie with her spelling worksheet, and pretended the day had left enough money in his pocket. But Sophie had been quiet on the ride home, too quiet. Her small face turned toward the rainy window, her backpack hugged against her chest. "You okay, Soph?" Marcus asked, keeping his voice gentle. She nodded first, then shook her head because she had never been good at lying to him. "My stomach hurts a little." Marcus looked at the gas gauge, then at the folded bills in the cup holder. Not much. Enough if he skipped dinner. Enough if he let the voucher from Willow Creek Elementary do what it promised to do. The paper was soft at the corners from being carried in Sophie's backpack all week, stamped with a blue apple logo and the words "Kids Eat Warm." Miller's Table was one of the restaurants listed on the school flyer. Family Place. That was what the sign said above the door, glowing through the rain in friendly yellow letters. Inside, the diner smelled of coffee, fried onions, floor cleaner, and the kind of warmth that made hungry people believe they would be treated kindly. Marcus wiped his boots twice before stepping in. Sophie carried her old phone in both hands, recording the rain for a class project about sounds in her neighborhood. "Can I keep it going?" she asked. "Just the rain and cups and stuff." Marcus almost smiled. "As long as you keep it low and don't bother anybody." She nodded seriously, the way 9-year-olds do when trusted with something small but important. Elena saw them before anyone else did. She had tired blue eyes, a green order pad tucked into her apron, and a way of moving quickly without making people feel rushed. When Sophie slid into the booth, Elena noticed the child's pale cheeks and the way Marcus checked the prices before he looked at the menu. "Long night?" she asked softly. Marcus gave a small nod. "Long enough." He placed the school voucher on the table, smoothing it with 2 fingers. Elena's eyes flicked to it, then to Sophie. Something in her face tightened, not in judgment, but recognition. "I'll bring her something warm," she said. Marcus started to object. "Only what the voucher covers." "Of course," Elena replied, but her hand brushed the pocket where her tips were folded. Across the room, Travis Cole was watching from behind the register, one hand resting on the tip jar as if guarding it from the people who had earned it. Diane Mercer stood beside him, all-neat blazer, polished name tag, and practiced smile, speaking to a couple near the front about community values. Elena returned with the soup anyway, steam curling upward, a plain white bowl on a chipped saucer. Marcus saw the $5 receipt tucked beneath it just before Travis saw the bowl. Then the room seemed to lean inward. Elena set the soup down. Sophie's eyes lifted with quiet gratitude. Marcus put out his hand to stop Elena, not the child. "You don't have to risk anything for us." But Diane was already coming. Her smile remained in place until she reached the booth. Then she slid the bowl back from Sophie with 2 fingers, just far enough to hurt. Beneath the table, Sophie's phone kept recording, and on the corner of the screen, beside the timer had already passed 4 minutes. The red timer on Sophie's phone kept climbing under the table, unseen beneath the shadow of Marcus's denim sleeve, while above it Diane Mercer kept her smile fixed like a badge. "Sir, we have procedures." Marcus looked at the bowl, then at his daughter. "She's hungry." "Then you should have planned better," Travis Cole said, soft enough to sound professional, loud enough for the nearest booth to hear. The diner did not go silent all at once. It changed by inches. Forks slowed against plates. A coffee cup paused halfway to a man's mouth. Somewhere behind the counter, the printer spat out a receipt with a dry mechanical chatter, and the smell of chicken broth drifted between them like something kind being held hostage. Marcus took a breath through his nose and lowered his hand to Sophie's shoulder. He felt how small she had made herself, knees tucked together, one sneaker hooked around the booth leg, her free hand gripping a napkin until it tore at the corner. He did not want her to remember him as angry. He did not want Elena to lose her job because he had run short on cash after a tow call that paid less than promised. So he reached into his worn wallet, passed the faded photo of his late wife and Sophie at a county fair, and pulled out every bill he had. 3 ones. A 5. Quarters, nickels, 2 dimes dark with grease from his pocket. He laid them on the table carefully, as if carefulness could protect dignity. "Take mine off," he said. "Just let her eat." Travis picked up the check between 2 fingers. His white shirt was pressed, his black tie perfectly straight, and the tip jar behind him caught the yellow light like a little glass confession. "You ordered coffee, half a grilled cheese, and soup," he said, reading too slowly. "You are short." Marcus nodded once. "I know. Short means unpaid." "I said I know. And unpaid means policy." Diane tilted her head with practiced sympathy, the kind printed on training posters. "Mr. Whitaker, we're a family restaurant. We cannot create exceptions every time someone walks in with a sad story." Sophie's face tightened at the word sad, and Marcus moved his thumb once over her shoulder, a small signal that said, "Stay with me, sweetheart." Then he unfolded the blue-edged paper from Willow Creek Elementary and slid it across the table. The corners were soft from Sophie's backpack. The Apple logo was smudged, but the words were still clear. "Kids eat warm." "Her school gave us this," Marcus said. "Your window has the sticker. It says you honor it." Elena's eyes flicked to the voucher. Something in her went still. She knew that paper. She had served 3 children with the same kind last week, and the register had accepted them without a manager's approval. Travis snatched it before Diane could reach. "Not tonight," he said. Marcus did not raise his voice. "It expires next month." "Doesn't matter. The sign says participating location. The sign doesn't run my shift." Diane gave a light laugh, airy and controlled, then stepped closer, blocking the voucher from the view of the next booth. "What Travis means is that certain assistance programs require verification. We handle these matters privately, so families are not embarrassed." But Sophie was already embarrassed. Her eyes were wet, fixed on the soup just out of reach, and the napkin in her hand had become a small white rope. A woman near the pie case whispered something to her husband. A teenage busboy stopped wiping a table, then quickly looked down when Travis glanced at him. Marcus felt every stare land on his jacket, his work boots, the black half-moons of grease under his nails that no sink could fully erase. He was not being seen as a father anymore. He was being sorted. Poor. Tired. Problem to be managed. He reached for the voucher, but Travis lifted it away. "Again with these school vouchers," Travis muttered, almost under his breath. Elena heard it. Marcus heard it too. Diane's eyes snapped toward Travis for half a second, and in that tiny fracture her polished calm showed something sharper underneath. Marcus looked from Travis's hand to the sticker on the front window, then to the small black security camera above the register. Its lens angled not at the door, but at the counter where the voucher now disappeared under Diane's palm. And Marcus wondered, if the program was not valid tonight, why had Travis sounded so tired of seeing it before? Marcus kept his eyes on the voucher for one more second, long enough to understand that the paper itself had become dangerous in Diane's hand. Then he looked at Elena, and the fear on her face told him more than Travis's mutter ever could. "I'll take care of it," Diane said, folding the voucher once. "This is an internal matter." "It's my daughter's dinner," Marcus replied. "No," Travis said, stepping in with that clean shirt confidence of a man used to making small people feel smaller. "It's Elena's mistake." Elena's mouth opened, but no words came out. Behind her, the kitchen doors swung softly on their hinges, breathing out heat, fryer oil, and the sharp scent of bleach from the mop bucket. The old cook, Earl Bennett, paused at the pass-through window with a ladle in his hand, his gray eyebrows pulling together. He had seen enough bad shifts to know when a room was being steered toward a lie. Travis reached toward Elena's apron. "You want to feed people out of pity. It comes out of your tips." Elena flinched, not dramatically, just enough for Marcus to see that this had happened before. A small sound came from under the table, Sophie's sneaker scraping the metal booth leg. Marcus lowered his hand and found her fingers. They were cold. "Daddy?" she whispered. "Is Miss Elena in trouble because of me?" That question landed harder than anything Travis had said. Marcus swallowed, feeling the old ache open behind his ribs, the one that always came when Sophie blamed herself for adult cruelty. He thought of his wife's photograph in his wallet, the county fair sunlight on her face, the promise he had made in a hospital room with machines hissing beside them. Don't let the world make her feel like a burden. Marcus stood slowly, not big, not threatening, just upright. "No, sweetheart," he said, his voice low enough for her but steady enough for the room. "She is not in trouble because of you." Diane's smile tightened. "Mr. Whitaker, please sit down." "In a minute, sir." "In a minute," he repeated, and somehow the second time made the air still. He turned to Elena. "Did you pay for that soup?" Elena looked at Diane first, the way an employee looks toward the person who controls next week's rent. "Elena," Diane said lightly, "don't make this worse." Travis gave a small laugh and tapped the edge of the table with the check. "She didn't pay for anything. She tried to sneak food past the register." Elena's hand moved to her apron pocket, trembling. She pulled out a folded $5 bill and a thin receipt. The paper curled from the heat of her palm. Before she could show it, Travis snatched the receipt. "That's not how we document comps." "It wasn't a comp," Elena said, barely above a whisper. "I paid." Travis crumpled the receipt once, hard, like the truth was just trash if a manager touched it first. Marcus watched the paper bend. He did not grab Travis's wrist. He did not call him a thief. He simply bent when half the receipt slipped from Travis's fist and fluttered beneath the booth, landing near Sophie's shoe. Marcus picked it up carefully between two grease-darkened fingers. On the torn strip, beneath a smear of broth, the ink still showed enough. "Employee paid, chicken soup, 7:42 p.m. He looked at it, then at Elena, and instead of waving it in Diane's face, he placed it in Elena's hand. "This belongs to you," he said. "It's your truth first." Elena stared at the scrap as if he had returned more than paper. For one breath, she was not a waitress being cornered by a manager. She was a person someone had believed without asking what it would profit him. Diane stepped closer. "Void it," she said to Travis, too quickly. "We'll correct the record." Marcus heard the phrase "correct the record" and felt Sophie's fingers tighten around his. Under the table, her cracked phone gave one faint vibration against the vinyl seat. Still running, still listening. Travis smirked at Marcus as if kindness had made him weak. But Marcus looked at the torn receipt in Elena's hand, then at the voucher hidden under Diane's palm, and he knew the smallest things in that booth. The soup, the paper, the time printed in fading ink, had just started telling a story no one behind the counter wanted heard. Diane's order to correct the record did not sound like panic. That was what made it worse. She said it with the smoothness of someone adjusting a reservation, one hand flattening the front of her blazer, the other sliding toward the computer terminal beside the register. Travis kept smiling, but the smile had changed. It was thinner now, stretched too tight over the small mistake Marcus had just pulled from beneath the booth. "Mr. Whitaker," Diane said, "you've involved yourself in an employee matter." Marcus looked down at Sophie first, not at Diane. "You okay?" Sophie nodded, though her eyes stayed on the torn receipt in Elena's hand. "That paper was already paid," she whispered, small and careful, as if the room might punish her for noticing. Marcus squeezed her fingers once. "I know." "Then sit down," Travis said. "Let the adults handle it." "I am handling it," Marcus said. Not loud, not sharp, just steady enough that the busboy near the pie case stopped pretending to wipe the same clean spot on the counter. Diane reached under the register and pulled out a single sheet of paper from a black plastic tray. It had the Miller's Table logo at the top, a smiling fork and spoon under the words "where every family belongs." The paper looked too fresh, too clean, its corners flat and perfect under the yellow diner light. "This is standard," Diane said, placing it on the table in front of Marcus. "An incident statement. You signed that there was a misunderstanding, that Elena acted outside policy, and that you became disruptive when staff tried to help."
Elena's face drained.
"Diane, I didn't—" "Elena," Diane said without looking at her. "This is how we protect everyone." Travis clicked a pen and held it out to Marcus. "Sign it." Marcus did not take the pen. "No. Then we document refusal. Document the truth first." The fryer hissed behind the swinging kitchen doors. Rain tapped the front windows in uneven lines, and the red neon open sign buzzed faintly like an insect trapped in glass. Marcus could feel eyes on the back of his neck, on his jacket, on the grease at his cuffs, on the worn seam where his sleeve had been mended twice. Men like him were expected to sign what cleaner people placed in front of them. Expected to apologize for needing too little. Expected to leave before dignity became inconvenient. He picked up the statement not to read it like a lawyer, but like a mechanic reading a work order that smelled wrong. One detail at a time. Name, time, alleged disturbance, employee violation, customer refusal. His thumb stopped near the top corner. Printed timestamp, 7:36 p.m. Marcus glanced at the scrap in Elena's hand. Employee paid, chicken soup, 7:42 p.m. 6 minutes later. He set the statement down beside the torn receipt and slid both into the pool of light beneath the hanging lamp. The difference sat there quietly, more dangerous than anger. "How did you write the ending before it happened?" he asked. No one answered at first. Diane's hand moved quickly, too quickly, trying to pull the statement back. Marcus did not hold it down. He let her take it, and that restraint made the motion look even worse. Travis cleared his throat. "The system prints when we open a file, not when something happens." "Then why does it already say Elena gave away food?" Marcus asked. Travis blinked once. Diane recovered, smoothing the paper against her clipboard. "Template language. We use it for situations like this." "Like this?" Marcus repeated. "A hungry child with a school voucher?" Travis leaned in, voice low and polished with threat. "Like trouble customers who come in short and make employees feel sorry for them." Sophie's phone vibrated faintly under the table, a soft insect-like buzz against the vinyl seat. Her hand moved toward it, but Marcus shook his head just a little, and she stopped. Elena saw the gesture. So did Diane. For the first time, Diane's eyes dropped toward the table's edge, not long enough to reveal fear, only long enough to reveal calculation. "Mr. Whitaker," she said, "if there is a recording device, this becomes a legal issue." Marcus looked at the torn receipt, then at the statement now tucked under Diane's clipboard, then at the camera above the register angled away from the booth. "It became an issue when you asked me to sign a lie," he said. Travis gave a small, humorless laugh. "Just sign the version we always use." The words slipped out clean and careless. Diane's head snapped toward him. Elena's breath caught. Marcus did not move, but something in his eyes sharpened. The receipt said 7:42. The statement said 7:36. And Travis had just admitted there was a version before there was a truth. The version we always use. The words hung over the booth longer than Travis meant them to, and for the first time that night, even the rain against the windows seemed to lower its voice. Diane did not look at Marcus. She looked at Travis, and that was the mistake. It was only half a second, but it was enough to tell Marcus that the statement was not a misunderstanding. It was a tool. "That's not what he meant," Diane said. Marcus nodded once, as if giving her room to correct it. "Then let him say what he meant." Travis clicked the pen twice. "You people always want a scene." "No scene," Marcus said. "Just the paper. Company property. My name is on it. Not signed." Because it isn't true. The air conditioner kicked on above them with a low metallic rattle, pushing cold air over the soup until the steam thinned and broke apart. Sophie leaned into Marcus's side, and he felt the fragile courage in that small movement. She was still scared, but she was no longer shrinking. Marcus lowered himself beside her, not turning his back on Diane, not blocking Elena, just placing his body where Sophie could breathe behind him. "Sweetheart," he said softly, "do you still have your phone?" Sophie nodded. "It's almost dead." Travis's eyes dropped to the table. Diane's polished smile returned too quickly. "Mr. Whitaker, recording staff without consent is a serious issue." Marcus kept his voice level. "She's 9. She was recording Rain for homework. Then hand it over and we'll verify that." "No, sir, we are trying to resolve this privately." "You tried private when you asked me to sign a lie." Travis stepped closer, one hand reaching toward the booth. "Give the manager the phone." Marcus did not raise a fist. He did not shove. He only moved his open palm between Travis and his daughter, slow enough for everyone to see restraint and firm enough for everyone to understand boundary. You don't scare a child to protect paperwork. A chair leg scraped somewhere near the pie case, then stopped. Elena's breath trembled. The busboy's towel hung forgotten in his hand. Diane's jaw tightened, but her voice stayed smooth. "We can call law enforcement." "Then call them," Marcus said. "And keep the camera footage while you're at it." Travis answered too fast. "Camera over this booth went out tonight." Marcus turned his head slightly, not surprised, just listening. "Tonight. Maintenance issue. When?" "Around 7:50. Elena's eyes flicked up. Sophie's fingers tightened around the phone. Marcus reached into the inside pocket of his denim jacket and pulled out a small black power bank, the kind he used on long-tow calls when his phone died beside some dark highway. He connected Sophie's cracked phone to it with a frayed cord from his toolbox pouch. The screen blinked alive. 5%. Then 6. A tiny cloud icon pulsed at the top. Sophie looked at it and whispered, "Daddy, it already saved some of it. The diner Wi-Fi remembers my school tablet." Diane's face did not change, but her hand moved to the register phone. Travis gave a short laugh that fooled no one. "Kids press buttons. Doesn't mean anything." Marcus looked at the screen only long enough to see the file name, the time, and the upload bar frozen halfway through. He did not play it. He did not wave it in the air. He simply turned the phone face down and slid it closer to his chest. "Then nobody needs to be afraid of it," he said. For the first time, Diane stopped pretending the problem was Marcus. She stepped away, lifted the receiver, and spoke so softly only the nearest people heard. "Grant, we have a recording problem." And Marcus knew then that the lie was bigger than the woman standing in front of him. "Grant, we have a recording problem." Diane's whisper should have disappeared into the clatter of plates and rain, but it landed in Marcus's chest like a wrench dropped onto concrete. Recording problem. Not a hungry child problem. Not an employee mistake. Not a misunderstanding. A recording problem. Marcus kept Sophie close while the phone warmed slowly against the power bank in his pocket, its little cloud icon still pulsing as if the truth itself were trying to breathe. Elena looked toward the kitchen doors, then back at Marcus, and for the first time that night her fear stopped moving in circles and pointed somewhere specific. "There's more," she said. Diane's head turned.
Elena.
The warning was soft, almost gentle. "Don't confuse yourself." "I'm not confused," Elena whispered, though her hand shook when she touched the edge of her apron. Travis stepped between her and the kitchen hallway. "You're on shift." Marcus looked at the space Travis was blocking, the way a tow driver looks at a road closed by orange cones, not angry at the cones, just measuring what they were hiding. From behind the swinging doors came Earl Bennett, the old cook, wiping his hands on a towel that had gone gray from years of steam and flour. His face was lined, his eyes tired, but he did not look surprised. "Let her through," Earl said. Travis laughed once. "Go back to the grill." Earl did not move. "I said let her through." The room tightened. Diane pressed the receiver against her chest so the person on the other end would not hear. This is not a staff meeting. Marcus gently took Sophie's backpack from the booth and set it beside her feet. Soph, stay where I can see you. She nodded, both hands around her cup of water now, trying hard to be brave in the small way children do when adults finally start telling the truth. Elena slipped past Travis before he could decide whether stopping her would look worse. Earl led them only as far as the narrow back hall, not out of sight of the dining room, but far enough that the heat of the kitchen wrapped around them. The smell changed there. Broth, onions, old grease, wet cardboard, and bleach. Behind a stacked bag of flour, Earl pulled out a dented blue cookie tin with Santa Claus faded almost white on the lid. He opened it on a stainless steel prep table. Inside were paper slips, diner receipts, folded schedules, and 3 printed photos of a black envelope tucked beneath the register drawer. Elena reached into her apron and removed her green order pad. The pages were worn soft from being opened and closed too many times. Numbers circled in blue ink. Dates, names, tip amounts, shortages. I wrote it down, she said. Every time tips changed after closing. But it was just my notes. They said nobody would believe a waitress with a grudge. Marcus did not touch the pad until she nodded. Then he laid it beside Earl's slips, careful, clean, respectful. He lined up one receipt with a tip entry, then a schedule edit, then one of Earl's photos. A pattern began to show itself without anyone needing to shout. Money came in under servers' names. A manager adjustment appeared near closing. The next morning, the shift report changed. The missing amount matched the nights Earl photographed the black envelope. Marcus's eyes stayed low, moving across the paper the way they moved across a leaking engine. Follow the stain, find the source, don't guess before the parts tell you. This happened more than once, he said. Earl gave a tired nod. 3 months that I kept. Longer before I got smart enough to save paper. Elena unlocked her phone and showed Marcus a text from Diane, sent 2 weeks earlier after Elena asked about missing tips. Grant wants quiet labor before inspection week. Do not make your attitude a payroll issue. It did not prove everything. Marcus knew that. It did not show Grant taking money or ordering theft. But it did show pressure from above, and it showed why Diane was not afraid of being cruel, only of being recorded. In the dining room, Diane's voice sharpened. Grant will be here in 20 minutes. Travis swore under his breath and wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Marcus saw that too. Not collapse. Not confession. Just a crack. Elena looked at Marcus with eyes that had carried this alone too long. We could play the recording now. Marcus looked through the narrow window in the kitchen door. Sophie sat in the booth under yellow light, small beside the cooling bowl of soup, her phone now holding something bigger than she understood. He shook his head. Not to hurt them. Not like this.
Elena blinked.
Then what? Marcus gathered the receipt, the voucher, the statement time in his mind, the order pad, Earl's slips, the photos, the half-uploaded recording, each piece heavy because each piece belonged to someone who had been made afraid. We make it strong enough they can't call it bitterness, he said. And we don't do it behind a closed door. At that moment, through the rain-streaked front glass, the headlights of a black SUV swept across the diner windows, washing Diane's polished smile pale as she turned toward the entrance. By morning, Miller's table looked as if the night before had never happened. The rain had stopped, the windows had been wiped clean, and a blue banner reading Family First Breakfast hung above the counter where Travis had taken the voucher from Marcus's hand. Folding chairs had been lined along the front window for the school representative, 2 local reporters, and a handful of regulars who had come for free coffee and a photograph with Grant Hollis. Grant stood beneath the banner in a charcoal overcoat, silver hair neat, smile practiced but not careless. The kind of man who knew a bad morning could become a lawsuit if handled wrong. Diane stood at his right shoulder with a clipboard hugged to her chest. Travis hovered near the register, wiping the same spot on the counter again and again. Then the doorbell chimed. Marcus walked in with Sophie beside him, her small hand folded inside his denim jacket still damp at the cuffs, his work boots cleaned but scarred. Elena stood near the server station, pale but upright. Earl watched from the kitchen window, the dented blue cookie tin tucked under one arm. No one cheered. No one believed him just because he looked tired. A man at the counter whispered, "That's the guy from last night." And someone else murmured, "The one who couldn't pay." Marcus heard it. Sophie heard it too. He squeezed her hand once and did not look back. Grant stepped forward, warm enough for cameras, careful enough for lawyers. "Mr. Whitaker, I understand there was an unfortunate misunderstanding," Marcus said. "There was hunger." Diane's smile tightened. "And confusion. There was a voucher." Marcus reached into his wallet and placed the Blue Kids Eat Warm paper on the counter. The school representative, Mrs. Alvarez from Willow Creek, leaned forward, glasses sliding down her nose. "That voucher is valid," she said quietly. Travis gave a little shrug. "We had to verify participation." Grant turned toward him. "Do we participate?" Diane answered before Travis could. "Generally, yes. But individual staff may pause acceptance during irregular incidents." Sounded official. It even sounded possible. For one brief second, the room relaxed toward her explanation, grateful for a version of the truth that did not require them to feel guilty. Then Marcus placed the torn soup receipt beside the voucher. "Employee paid. Chicken soup. $7.42. Elena's hand went to her apron, where her order pad rested like a heartbeat. Grant looked at the receipt, then at Diane. "You said it was stolen food." Diane did not blink. "That receipt was voided after the fact." Marcus reached next into his jacket and laid down the incident statement copy Earl had photographed before Diane pulled it back. Miller's Table logo, printed language, timestamp 7:36. The room shifted. A reporter lowered her coffee. Mrs. Alvarez frowned. Grant's fingers came down slowly on the edge of the counter. "Why is the complaint printed before the soup was purchased?" Diane inhaled through her nose. "Templates auto-populate. It's a system issue." Travis nodded too fast. "Exactly. System issue." Marcus did not argue. He looked up at the small black camera above the register. "Then the camera can clear it." For the first time, Travis stopped wiping. Grant turned. "Pull last night's footage." Travis swallowed. "Can't. Drive was formatted. Routine maintenance." Elena's eyes filled, but she did not step back. Earl came out then, slow and heavy, setting the blue cookie tin on the counter with a dull metal sound. Diane's face went pale around the mouth. "Earl, that is company property." "No," Earl said. "It's what was left after company property went missing." Grant looked from Earl to Elena to Marcus, and his polished smile was gone now, replaced by something harder, more awake. Marcus bent toward Sophie. "You don't have to speak." Sophie nodded, then lifted her cracked phone with both hands and placed it on the counter beside the voucher, the receipt, and the statement. The cloud icon was full now. Marcus rested his hand near it, not on it, and said, "This isn't for revenge. It's so nobody gets to bury it again." Grant stared at the phone as the room held its breath, and Marcus tapped the file marked rain sounds. 7:39 p.m. The file opened with rain. Not music, not voices at first, just the soft hiss of water against the diner windows and the faint clink of silverware from the night before. For 3 seconds, everyone in Miller's Table listened to ordinary weather. Then Diane Mercer's voice came through Sophie's cracked phone, close and clear. "Don't let that child touch the soup." Sophie's fingers tightened around Marcus's hand. He did not look at Diane. He looked down at his daughter and gave the smallest nod, the kind that told her she was safe behind him. On the counter, the phone kept playing. Elena's voice followed, trembling but honest. "I paid for it." Travis laughed in the recording. "Tips don't belong to you until management balances them." The room changed. A chair stopped scraping near the window. The reporter's pen froze above her notebook. Mrs. Alvarez slowly turned from the voucher to Grant Hollis, her face no longer polite, no longer unsure. Diane reached toward the phone. "That's out of context." Grant caught her wrist, not hard but final. "Let it play." The recording went on. Diane's voice sharpened beneath the buzz of the old open sign from the night before. "If you mention tip adjustments, vouchers, or that soup again, you won't work in this town." Elena closed her eyes as if hearing it outside her own fear made it worse and freer at the same time. Marcus placed the torn soup receipt beside the phone. 7:42. Then the incident statement. 7:36. Then the voucher with the blue apple stamp, still valid. He did not stack them dramatically. He laid them down like parts on a workbench, each one where it belonged. "Count the times," he said quietly. "Don't feel sorry for us. Count what they took." Earl opened the blue cookie tin. Paper whispered against paper. Tip slips slid across the counter beside Elena's green order pad, dates lining up in small blue circles. One receipt, one shortage, one manager adjustment, one black envelope in Earl's printed photo. Grant looked at them as the recording reached the moment everyone would remember. Diane's voice, low and cruel, filled the diner under the Family First banner. "A poor child is not this restaurant's responsibility, and neither is a waitress who forgets her place." Nobody moved. The coffee machine clicked off, and in the sudden quiet its final drip sounded impossibly loud. Travis swallowed. His hand darted toward the black envelope sitting near the register, the one Earl had placed there while the room was listening. "That's not part of this," he said. The words came too fast, too dry. Every eye followed his hand. Even before Grant spoke, Travis seemed to understand what he had done. Diane's clipboard slipped against her hip, papers sliding crooked. Her professional smile had nowhere left to stand. Grant turned to the reporter, then to Mrs. Alvarez, then to the staff gathered behind Elena. His voice lost the polish and found something harder. "No one touches the register. No one deletes a file. I want the external auditor called, the labor office notified, and every tip report from the last 6 months preserved." Diane whispered, "Grant, we can handle this internally." He looked at the phone, then at the voucher, then at Sophie standing half-hidden behind Marcus's jacket. "That is what created this." Sophie let out a breath she had been holding too long. Elena reached back, not to pull the child forward, only to rest a hand gently on the booth beside her. Marcus slid the phone back toward Sophie but did not pick it up yet. The room that had judged his boots, his bills, and his empty pockets now had no words for the truth sitting on the counter. And when Grant finally turned to him and asked, "What do you want, Mr. Whitaker?" Marcus understood that the most dangerous choice was not whether to punish them, but what kind of justice he would ask for now that the room could finally hear him. Grant's question did not invite applause, and none came. The diner stayed quiet while the last echo of Sophie's recording seemed to settle into the floorboards, into the coffee cups, into the hands of servers who had spent months counting money that vanished before morning. Marcus looked at the phone, then at his daughter. Sophie stood close enough for his jacket to brush her cheek, the same faded denim that had hidden the red recording light when she was afraid. "I don't want anything private," Marcus said. Grant's expression shifted, just slightly, because men in his position were used to solving shame with envelopes and quiet signatures. "Mr. Whitaker, I can compensate you and your daughter for what happened." Marcus shook his head. "You can make sure it doesn't happen again." Diane was escorted to the office. Not dragged, not shouted down, just walked past the booths with her clipboard pressed against her chest like it might still protect her. Travis stood by the register until Grant told him to step away from the cash drawer. And when he did, the black envelope remained on the counter, smaller now than the fear it had created. An external auditor was called before lunch. The county labor office was notified. Mrs. Alvarez from Willow Creek made a formal statement that Miller's Table had accepted school reimbursement for the Kids Eat Warm program while refusing at least one valid voucher. Elena did not have to plead. Earl did not have to yell. The papers spoke in the order Marcus had placed them. Voucher, receipt, statement, tip slips, recording, upload log. By the end of the week, every employee received a printed accounting of missing tips. By the end of the month, Diane and Travis were gone, and the franchise was under review with new rules written where old smiles used to hide. No pre-printed incident statements without staff witness. No camera formatting without external log. No tip adjustment without employee signature. No child voucher denied by a shift manager protecting his own numbers. Grant stood in the empty diner one afternoon with Marcus near the same booth. Not as a hero and owner, but as two men looking at the damage left by silence. "You could have taken the settlement," Grant said. Marcus ran his thumb along the torn edge of Elena's old soup receipt, now sealed in a clear evidence sleeve. "That receipt was trash to them," he said. "It was her dignity." Elena heard him from behind the counter and looked down before the tears could embarrass her. But they were not ashamed tears anymore. They were the kind that come when someone finally stops making you prove your pain alone. Marcus asked for no personal reward. Instead, he helped turn the old side window of Miller's table into a supper counter for children after school, funded by the required restitution and monitored by the school district, not by the franchise's public relations team. Earl cooked the first pot of soup. Elena managed the sign-in sheet. Sophie placed the original blue voucher in a small frame by the register, beside a note written in her careful fourth-grade handwriting. "Hungry is not bad. Asking for help is okay." On opening night, Marcus arrived late from a tow call, hands clean but still marked by grease no soap could fully erase. Sophie ran to him, not with fear this time, but with a paper bowl of soup held in both hands. "I saved you some, Daddy." He smiled, tired and soft, and Elena slid a chair out for him. No one called him a charity case. No one looked at his boots first. Grant, standing near the back with the school representative, gave Marcus a small nod that carried no pity, only respect. Marcus sat beside Sophie, his old denim jacket folded over the chair. No longer a shield against shame, but a reminder of how quietly love can cover a child until truth is ready to stand. The room grew silent again, not because anyone had been exposed, but because everyone understood. Dignity does not need to raise its voice, and kindness is never lost. Sometimes it waits beneath a table, glowing red, until the world is finally ready to listen.